Hello and welcome to Observations, Documentation, Reflection. My name is Stephanie Camoni and I am a Program Quality Assessor with the Pennsylvania Key. Our objectives for this webinar are to observe accurately and objectively, document observations, and reflect on observation and assessment results. There are many reasons to observe in the classroom, but here are some of the top ones. We want to understand our children or our environment better. We really want to get to know each child in our classroom. We want to gauge their development and learning, and we want to teach more responsively. Let's start with defining observation to make sure we're all on the same page. Observation is a method of watching, listening, documenting, and analyzing the children and/or the classroom environment. As a teacher, you're always watching. What changes is the purpose for watching. So who or what are you observing? Are you watching to see how two children interact? Are you watching to see how a new material is being used in the classroom? Are you watching to see a child's progress with a new skill? There are so many times and ways we observe. We have broken the observation tools into three categories: developmental screeners, child assessments, and program observation instruments. Developmental screeners are used to determine if sensory, behavioral, or developmental skills are progressing as expected, or if there are causes for concern. Ages and stages is an example of this type of screener. Screeners are not child assessments, but can indicate the level of development in a child. Child assessments like Teaching Strategies Gold allow teachers to observe children and create individualized learning goals. Finally, there are program observation instruments. Program observation instruments, or POIs, are evidence-based, reliable tools used to measure the quality of early learning and school-age programs. They provide a specific structure that guides the observer's review of a specific set of implemented practices. They can help early childhood and school-age professionals review their program's practices to see what they are doing well and identify areas for growth. POIs designed for use in these settings often involve time spent in the classroom or care space, observing, listening to interactions between children and teachers, interviewing to gather information, and reviewing documents and materials. The feedback from these activities can be used to inform CQI decision-making on all or part of a program's services and support program evaluation efforts. As we continue, the focus will be on observing using program observation instruments, but the concepts can be used with child assessments and developmental screeners as well. Now we're going to look at the types of observations. The first one we're going to talk about are anecdotal records. This would probably be the most common form used if you were to gather child observations. It is basically a short story that captures the child engaging in play and the experience and is written in past tense, starting right at the beginning when the child begins the experience and ends when the child stops participating in the experience. The reason that this is one of the more common types is because it's a useful method to record events or actions based on the child's strengths, interests, development, and needs. Here's an example of an anecdotal record. In the block center, Jamie and Catherine began to argue over who would drive the dump truck. Maria said, "Nobody can be my friend if I'm not the driver." The teacher suggested that there were two other trucks and an airplane. Catherine could be the pilot and everyone else could drive a truck. The next type of observation is a running record. This is a continuous observation of a behavior stream for a particular period of time. The observer writes down what the child says and does for a length of time or a particular activity. During the recording, the observer should aim not to interpret what is seen, but to provide an accurate account of a naturally occurring behavior. The purpose of the running record is to gather a great deal of information, which is generally qualitative in nature. After making a record, the observer may write up the conclusion and briefly summarize what occurred. This method is considered useful in recording any areas of development, note down child's interests as they occur, and provide a holistic approach to observing a child. Time samples are a useful way to collect and present observation data over a long period of time. Time samples are repeated, short, focused snapshots of child development used to collect precise data. Time samples can be used to observe a child's behavior to identify possible concerns. An example of a time sample is Sue hit Jim 5 times during outdoor play. The next type are work samples. These are collected from each individual child and may include drawings, paintings, cuttings, writings, etc. Accompanying work samples, you can add comments from the child, a description of what happened, or what the child said, and link these to areas of development. Photo observations. As the type states, this is a non-written form of observation that may or may not be accompanied with another observation method. It is a perfect visual tool to capture a child at play, or practicing a skill, or maybe using social skills during interactions. Photo observations can show the level a child is at, like a good photo observation of a series of photos showing a child using scissors. It can show the control, the grip, and the ability. When observing, it is important to leave your bias at the door. The outcome of your assessment is reliant on objective, factual observations. Here are some biases that could affect an accurate assessment. This teacher reminds me of myself when I started teaching, so I'll give him a higher rating. I just read an interesting article about classroom management, and now I don't agree with the indicators in the environment rating scale. I will change the rating to fit my ideas. The kids were rowdy and noisy as the activity started, so now I will look for flaws when I observe you. I don't want to upset anybody, so I'm going to not differentiate, and I'm going to score everyone in the middle. My observations of Tommy have been mostly negative lately. It's because the parents have been rude to me lately. Observations should be factual and objective to be useful and meaningful. This means observers should write only what they see and hear, and avoid using words that communicate judgment about a child's feelings, intentions, and motivations, are open to interpretation, or describe an opinion. It might be second nature to score based on what you know your teachers do on a regular basis. However, the program observation instruments are designed to look at quality in a specific time frame. If the practice is observed during your observation, count it. If it is not observed, do not consider it in rating decisions. So what do you need to get ready to observe? The materials you will need may vary based on your purpose of observing. You may need something to write on and write with, unless you'll be writing your notes digitally. If using an assessment tool, be sure to have a copy of it to ensure you're capturing the expected criteria. You may need access to a clock or a stopwatch to keep track of timing. Something to take pictures with may also be needed if you are adding to a child's portfolio. For purposes of observing staff, a recording device to capture video can be helpful. Make sure to set a block of uninterrupted time to be present in the classroom for the observation. The time depends on the purpose of the observation. Are you observing a specific child during a group activity? Are you using an assessment tool with a time expectation? Finally, let the teacher know the purpose of your observation. If you will be observing the teacher using a program observation instrument, it's helpful to provide training to the staff so there is an understanding of the assessment. Where can you find more information about using program observation instruments? If you're planning on using one of the POIs, the PAKey website is the first place to start. You'll visit www.pakeys.org. Then select Program Quality Assessment, and Program Observation Instrument, or POI. The chart displayed will appear, and you can click on the POI you are interested in. There's a wealth of information for each POI, including how-to guides that break down the assessment process for that specific tool. Once you complete your observation, whether of a child, teacher, or the environment, review the data with those people responsible for implementing changes. It is important to celebrate the strengths. Often improvements build upon strengths. Brainstorm areas for improvement and create CQI goals. When planning your CQI goals, look toward implementing the next level's indicators. Plan to revisit your goals and program's administrative practices regularly to assess and update as goals are achieved. The CQI process is cyclical as you continuously reflect on your practices and your drive for growth. Take all the data that was gathered from the observation and review it with the team. The team could include program staff, the quality coach, an assessor, and any other partners identified by the program. There's no specific number on how many individuals need to make up the team. The makeup and function of the team will vary according to the purpose of the observation. Next, we want to make sure we celebrate those strengths and share them. If you're doing observations on a child to find where they are developmentally in certain areas, look at what they can do and celebrate that with the child and even their family. Sharing moments with families not only makes them happy, but it also builds those relationships which are key. If you're conducting an internal assessment, review the data and celebrate those strengths. Give kudos to the teaching staff for their work and recognize areas of quality. You can post information in center-wide or classroom newsletters explaining a bit about the internal assessment and sharing those strengths with families. Recognize everyone for the continuing work and dedication to the center, the families, and the children. Now with the team you created, discuss areas you would like to improve on. If you conducted assessments using program observation instruments, look at the results. What areas scored lower? What areas would you like to build on? If you are observing a child or children, what skills would you like them to develop more? What can help that child? Create a list of all the areas of growth. What areas could benefit from the improvement, or what skills did you identify as wanting to develop in a child? Now that you have your list, it is time to create goals. Were there any safety or supervision issues that may put children at risk? Those goals should be prioritized over any others. Next, list short-term and long-term goals. Then review each goal and note if money will be needed to achieve that goal, such as physical improvements to a space or materials needed for a classroom. Choose 3 to 5 goals that you want to focus on and create that plan. One way to create goals is using the SMART goal setting technique. You want to look at specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals. First, by being specific, what goal are you trying to accomplish and why? And then you want to be able to measure it. How do you know you've achieved your goal? What is your intended outcome? Next, what actions will you put in place to ensure you achieve this goal, to make sure it's attainable? And then how does the goal align with your role as a teacher or a director? What is the relevancy? And finally, what is the timeline for achieving this goal? An example of a SMART goal is as follows. I will add more materials to my science center so children have developmentally appropriate options. I will reassess using the ECRS-R, specifically the nature science item, and work towards achieving level 5 or above. I will create a list of available items and categorize them according to the scale and make a list of what materials can be added to meet the indicator. I will purchase, make, and ask for donations to obtain the materials. This will improve classroom quality. I plan on reassessing the science area in 3 months. Now that you created your CQI goals, you want to plan for reassessment. Use a timeline that allows you to meet your SMART goal deadlines, scheduling it ahead of time so everyone is aware of the next check-in. Then you will reassess and complete the process again. Here are some resources as you continue on your journey of observation, documentation, and reflection. Better Kid Care has resources, including on-demand trainings about observation. The how-to guides and other assessment information can be found on the Pennsylvania Key website. If you search observation on the NACCE website, you'll find books and articles. And finally, visit the assessor's Let's Talk Quality blog for weekly posts about quality practices, assessment, and more. Thank you for taking the time to watch our webinar on observation, documentation, and reflection. And thank you for all you do each and every day.